Tape Deck Media.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing. You're in LA, is that correct?
I am in LA right now, yeah.
You're from the Colorado area, right? Is that
From Denver, Colorado, born and raised.
born and raised? Oh, so didn't just start doing comedy here probably. You
No.
were born and raised. I like it.
All the way native.
Ah, right on, right on. Yeah, I've been in the area now for like 4 years, but I'm moving in 2 weeks back to South
Okay.
Dakota for a little while, but
Okay.
I like it.
I've been there too.
Yeah, yeah. Gotta move back to close to family for a little while. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, before we get too far into this, into your bombing story, I always like to talk to the guests to kind of see, obviously, we kind of already talked about where you probably started comedy, but where you started comedy, how long you've been doing comedy, and what really inspired you to pursue comedy as a career.
Okay. I'm, like I said, from Denver, Colorado. I started in Denver at the Squire Lounge on East Colfax. It was my first time ever getting up. And then I did a bunch of, I got kind of into the open mic scene from there. And there used to be a lot of mics there. Most of them are gone. There was one called The Laughing Bean that was on Santa Fe. There was Cafe Zero. There was a Z Bar that was like out like in Lakewood that was like a cigar bar. There was another cigar bar that was in like South Denver. There were like a lot of mics you could get up and go to and really practice on a weekly basis. I and so I got a lot of sets, and then obviously, the Comedy Works New Talent Night was always like the goal of like,
Yeah, yeah,
the open mic scene, the crown jewel.
yeah. Going through that process.
Yeah. Um, and I did that first set that would have been March of 2007 when I was 21 and I was an undergrad at Metro State. And yeah, I just got up. Like, I had always wanted to do it. Actually, when I was in high school, had called the Comedy Works to see if they would let me, like, how you went about
How you went
getting
about
up.
it? Yep.
Yeah. And somebody on door staff told me, like, no, it's only 21 and up. You can't start. And apparently that's actually not the case. If you have a parent with you, you can start when you're like 15 or 16. Uh, and every once in a while, I'll consider, where would I be if I'd been able to start, 6 years earlier? But
I mean, that's an
uh,
interesting thing to think about. I'm sure, because even
yeah.
like for me, I started comedy when I was 31, and I think
Hmm.
about it, it was something I always wanted to do, and I almost started when I was like 21, 22,
Yeah.
right in that ballpark. I thought
Yeah.
about it, but never followed through. And I think back, and I'm like, if I would have started 10 years prior to when I
Oh,
did.
yeah. If I had started, I think about it and I go, man, if I had started when I was 15, like I wanted to, like, who knows? Sky's the limit. Like, because I think I was a lot more fearless at the time. I think I would have. I mean, but you also don't know. I mean, maybe it's like, you do it for a little bit and you go, eh, this isn't
Yep.
really for me. Like, it sucks once, and then
Yeah, it could
you
go
have
either
a
way for sure.
yeah, maybe you go like, that's not really gonna work for me. So you just kind of go, it was supposed to happen how it happened. But I do think about that sometimes. But yeah, started when I was 21, 2007. Um, and yeah, I mean, I just always loved comedy. I like watched a lot of comedy growing up, both stand up, but also just like comedy sitcoms. Like I would watch, like Nickelodeon all day and then Nick at Night,
Oh
like
yeah.
late into the night. And
I wonder how many
I
listeners
was,
remember that.
yeah, I was just like absorbing comedy,
Yep.
like constantly absorbing comedy. And then, yeah, so it started with like, Nickelodeon and cartoons and stuff like that, and then became a thing where you naturally kind of graduate to more like stand up, and like Def Jam was on at the time, and then you would watch like the Apollo or, like lots of stuff that would be on like late at night that would start to
Mm-hmm.
get you into it. And then, you start paying attention to the specials and then picking up the comedy albums. And before you know it, you're like, I want to do this. I want to try. I want to see if I can. I wonder if, and, Denver felt like so apart from all that stuff. Like now, I feel like Denver doesn't feel isolated like it used to, but it used to
Yep.
just feel like, you were like in a city on the moon.
Yep.
So you just kind of like, I wonder if like that's even a thing here. Like, does anybody even do that here? And interesting, the thing that actually made it uh feel like a possibility was Adam Caton Holland, who's like another Denver guy who's gone on to do like a lot of really big things.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in college, Adam was working at the Westward. And when I was looking around to try to see like what you could do, like literally he had just written an article for the Westward about starting stand-up comedy in Denver, Colorado, and where to go, like the Lion's Lair and the Squire and all that kind of laid out like a little bit of the roadmap. And it
What?
wasn't too long after that I showed up at one of those mics and tried it.
Nice. I was just gonna ask real quick. What were you studying in college when you started comedy?
Well, I started as I was a theater major, and then I realized that I didn't really like building sets and stuff. I just kind of I wasn't focused enough on it. You really got to be into that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I ended up switching to political science, and I can't remember. I must have already been political science by then. Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
I maybe switched like 2006 or 2005. But yeah, it would have been political science.
Okay, just interesting. Well, because that, I mean, even that a degree like that, I mean, there's a market for that in comedy, obviously, with all the different comedic political shows. The Daily
Yeah,
Show's a great example of that.
yeah, and I mean, the thing is, I just liked politics, and I liked whole numbers, and I liked like geeky kind of sociological There were just like a lot of aspects of political science that I found very interesting, and I liked like learning about foreign policy and like really like nerdy shit. So
Hmm.
that's part of why I went to law school at the end of the day.
Oh, very nice. Well, let's get into what what this podcast is about, and that's you've been doing comedy a very long time. I'm sure you've had plenty of successful shows, but we like to talk about the ones that don't go very well. So, love to
Uh-huh,
hear.
uh-huh.
You before we started recording, you said you probably have a couple stories you'd like to share. So
I mean,
let's get
I've
into that.
probably got three off the top of my head that were rough. Yeah. I mean, when I think of like one of the worst bombs ever had, I was I was doing a they sit basically my friend Caleb Simon and I had the same agents shortly after we both got to LA, and they would occasionally book us to do clubs together. uh, and they booked us to do it was stand up Scottsdale in Arizona. And so we drive down to Arizona, and the first, it's like Thursday, then two shows Friday, two shows Saturday. I can't remember if we had a Sunday, but it was that late show Friday, which is always the show. The other shows were great, but that
Yeah.
late show Friday was like, we're feeling good because Thursday night was great and the early show Friday was pretty good. Was great. And then that late show, man, it was like maybe 12 people in the room. And Caleb and I had been flip-flopping, where like he would go up early on the one show and then I'd go up early on the next show, and
Swapping it out.
alternate closing, right? Each doing 45. And I had been up first on the early show and Caleb had closed. So on the late show, he was up first. And I'm watching him as like, and Caleb is like so likable on stage. I've really never seen him lose. Like everybody loves him. He's like, and, but there's this thing with comics that I'm sure you know, where when you've been good friends for a while or whatever, if you know a joke that they are like, that's a joke I hate doing, but it always works. They're just sick of it.
Yeah.
And you go like, if they're doing that, it's because they think they're like, this isn't going so well. And I'm watching him, and that joke comes out, and I'm like, oh no, because it always worked. It always worked. And he does it, and it doesn't work. And I'm watching him wait for them to get it, and they're not getting it.
Oh no.
And it's just style. And then he like moves on and kind of like, gets to the end, fights to the bell. And I go up and I got heckled on my first joke.
Oh, that's always
on
fun.
my very first joke. I had this joke. I don't even remember. It was like something like, and it was right before the 2016 election, and I remember Caleb had been on stage going like, "Oh, I kind of like Hillary. I think she's okay." And this girl's just like, "No," like
no.
yelling Trump at him from the back of the room. And we're like, "Oh man!" And we're up there, and I get up there. I get heckled on my first joke. It was a table of girls that's like over here. There's like two of them that are hammered. Everybody else is like almost asleep. Like they don't want to.
They're tired,
This
ready
is
to
like
go home.
bad. Yeah, it's like late, and I just proceed to die for 45 minutes, like the entire, because you got to do your time.
Yep.
And I mean, 45 minutes of silence and the occasional heckle. And they were so bad that the guy that was with him, this is like a guy who's like by himself with like three like college girls, who is eventually like, I can't deal with this. And like leaves.
Oh, he left them?
He left them. And I'm like sitting up there just like proceeding to just tank for a full 45. And then Caleb and I left, and we went back to our hotel and our respective hotel rooms. And I sat quietly in my hotel room, and I thought, I think I may have made a mistake. I feel like
that's when you
I
know
feel
it's
like
bad.
comedy. Yeah.
when you're back at the room or even driving home after a gig and you start thinking about that.
Yeah, you go like, really? I had a law degree. Like, this is a mistake. I made a mistake. Because I think we were both getting like, I don't know, a grant. It wasn't like a lot of money for the weekend. And it was like, I'm not good. I've never been good. Maybe it was all a lie. Like I should have been able to, there were people there. What happened? So that was one.
It definitely doesn't help when it's hard to like kind of recover when like as soon as you do one joke and they're already heckling because they're gonna be rough. I had a similar experience to that. I was doing it was my first cruise ship gig, and there were two comics, where you do like a half hour each or whatever, and the other comic was up, and the crowd was being pretty rowdy and heckling him the whole time. And I got up there and same thing. Like I barely even grabbed the mic, and they were already like kind of heckling, and I was just like, oh
Yeah.
god, this is gonna be
Yeah.
rough.
Right.
They're riled up.
Yeah. And sometimes like a little bit like that's like a good it actually can
Could be,
be like a
yeah,
fun
yep.
energy, when it's like a little kind of chaotic and if they're having a good time and it's just kind of rowdy, I wouldn't want them to heckle, but I like that rowdy energy. This was
Oh
not
yeah,
that. This
yep.
was like death. This was like it was like it felt like being in like a waiting room at like a doctor's office where there's like one group of people that hates you when you walk in the door. Like it was just quietly people staring at you.
Oh
Like
man.
very not, sometimes they're staring at you, but they're still on your side. And this was not that. This was like people who were just physically there. It was just a room full of like 12 people disassociating and three girls screaming at you. It was all they weren't even like yelling. It wasn't even like they were mad about that. It was just like it was like they weren't there. It might as well have been dummies. And one table of like girls screaming at you. Uh so that was one. And that one was bad. I had another one where I had to do this run. I had crashed. I was in a weird place because I crashed totaled my car driving from Denver to Los Angeles. And then that next night, I had to get on a flight to Chicago, rent a car, drive to Indianapolis. I was doing Crackers in Broad Ripple. I was headlining there, and those shows were all great. But then I had a college in Southern Illinois. It was I forget exactly the town, but it was a college in Southern Illinois in like a small town, and I was the homecoming act. And for whatever reason, there's like it's like 800 kids that come in a room, and the show a large portion of the kids that are coming to the show were black like fraternity kids. And I already know it's bad because I'm backstage and before the show, and I can see them practicing their, like black fraternity like step show in the aisles. Like they're going down the aisles going,
Oh.
and I'm like, oh, I'm so dead. I'm like wearing glasses. I'm like, I'm finished. Like this is like a energy I can't. There's no matching this energy, and it's packed. It's literally like sold out, like 800 plus kids. And I was doing 45 minutes, and I start, and it's not going great.
And
But it
a
just
gig like that, you probably didn't have anybody else either, because a lot of college
no, it
gigs,
was
it's
just
just
me.
you. Yeah, yep. So
It's
you
just
have to
me.
go up
There's no
cold too.
openers. It's just me.
Yep.
It's like you go up cold. They go like God Mike goes like, oh, Troy Walker,
Yep.
and I walk out, and you go, hey everybody, and it was a big stage too, so it's like a lot of space to fill, which like that can be, the tighter the better. This is not that. This is like a big like I don't even know if it wasn't like a lecture hall. It was like a like an event space. Like they would like the kind of place you'd be like, oh, they do plays here or bands or whatever. And I'm just up there and I start and immediately the kids are just kind of like staring at me. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. And I'm like trying to like drag laughs out of them. And there's like a little bit here, a little bit there. It starts to just get dead quiet. They're not even like heckling or anything. It's just like me talking to myself. And after about maybe 20 minutes of that, I can start to see them leaving. So like
Oh no.
I'm like, because it's a big, like I said, it's like 800 kids and it's very dark in the room. But I know they're leaving because it's so dark that every time the door opens in the back of the room, you hear it and like light enters and you can
Enters,
just
yep.
see like this like trail of ants going out. And I'm like, and that kind of thing, you glance at your watch and you're like, well, 30 more minutes. keep keep kind of vamping and like doing what you can. I think I maybe got 10 laughs, like 10 big laughs in about 40 minutes, which is low.
Mm-hmm.
Closed it out, smattering of applause. And I remember the lady who booked me, she paid me, but like she was disappointed. Like she was like, well, here you go. Gave me the money. And it was like I almost wanted to be like, I should you should keep it.
I should just let you have this.
You should just probably keep it. But I took the money and I kind of like limp out. And there's still kids kind of milling around, and it's like that thing where you're walking by them, and they saw the show, but they're not saying anything to you. It's like nobody's even like, "Hey man, good job" or anything. They're just like quiet. Like just quiet. And I walk back and I get in my car and I drive back to my hotel, and it was the same thing of like, huh, this is maybe this was like a bad. Especially because what was bad about that is I did that, and then I was talking to my friend who was back here in LA on the phone, and she was like kind of going through a breakup, and I was like, man, this is like awful. like I was like, yeah, okay, I realize your heart's broken, but like I would take that over what just happened to me in a second.
Like, please give me heartbreak over what I just had to endure.
Yeah, I would take that in a second. This is like, I didn't like, like being in that relationship wasn't like your career. This was like me going like, well, maybe I've made a horrible mistake. And then the worst part was the next day I had to get up, get in the car, and drive from Southern Illinois to Oklahoma City for a NACA college conference.
Oh God.
And so like it's like, 12 hours or something that I drive like, through like Arkansas and like over to Oklahoma City. And then I get there and then I bombed at that.
Because no.
It was awful. It was like it was at like noon, and they had, people don't know like what a NACA is. I don't know if they do, but it's basically a conference where colleges in different regions all go to this conference. The like student affairs kids that like plan the entertainment for the schools, they go to this, and then they watch a variety of different acts. It's not just stand up, it's bands, it's spoken word, it's magicians, it's like whatever. It's people selling bouncy castles, orgasm seminars, like all kind, whatever kind of thing that might want to, any kind of entertainment that might go to the school. And so you end up on these weird lineups, and somebody has to host it. Somebody draws like the hosting spot, and this time it was a DJ. So so it was like the DJ and then me. And the DJ had written a song for the event for his like 3-4 minutes or whatever. And it's like this song where they're supposed to like dance, and like the kids aren't dancing. They're just like staring like this. I'm watching this DJ like run around and like try to get the kids to like, it was like something like Selfie with Me or something that he'd written. And like the kids are like not into there. It's like no energy from this crowd as this guy is like dancing and like playing the song and like trying to get them to do anything. They're doing nothing. And then it's like, well, that was me. And your next act is Troy Walker, everybody. Up on stage. Awful, brutal. Death, 10 minutes. And it's like you did that hoping to get work, and you're like, I'm not getting anything out of this.
Yeah. Well, and then in addition to that, too, with those conferences, you got to set up a booth essentially, too, where they can
Yeah,
come and talk to you and do like,
yeah,
face to face. So when you
yeah,
have, not only do you have, if you have a bad
yeah.
showing at the showcase, you still have to stand out
Yeah,
there.
you still stand there and you watch as like kids go by and they like book like they're like into like all this, it's like a guy with like robot dogs and they're like, ooh, or like or like it's like really like this thing. I remember like one of them I was like the booth was like next to a seminar on like the female orgasm. I was like, no, you're not gonna go to me. um so that was that one. And then my last one was working Gillette, Wyoming at a bar called Mingles. And
uh,
you would
that's
I'm
funny.
not sure if you're familiar with
I'm
Gillette.
not sure. I'm not familiar with Mingles, but I've been to Gillette, so I'm not. I mean, that sounds like a bar in Gillette.
It was a bar in legendary called Mingles, and they had a running like a standing one nighter thing for decades. And my friend Brian and I got booked to go up there and co-headline. And it's like 5 hours from Denver. So we drive up and they have like the stage and like the back of the bar with like chairs and stuff, and then the bar is on the other side like around with TVs and stuff. Not only do they not even turn the TVs off, but I watched like we proceed both of us to die for 45 minutes after you drive 5 hours, death 45. They're not even and the whole time the people who had shown up for the show start to stand up, but they don't leave the room. They just go to the bar and hang out there. So they leave and they get up out of their seats and they walk to the back where you can see the bar where the TVs are, and they sit down there and just have drinks and stuff. And so you're like watching people literally turn their back on you for 45 minutes. And then they paid us, and it was so bad that we didn't even stay the night. We just got back in the car and drove the 5 hours back. But we were just like, we got to get out of this town.
That is
But
really
yeah,
bad when you're
yeah,
like, especially 5 hours is a long drive,
five
and
hours. We were like, let's
you're
just go
like,
back.
no, let's just go.
Let's just go back. We'll wake up in our beds. Put this behind us.
Wow, that's incredible. That's yeah, experiences like that, especially when you have to drive when you drive so far too for a gig,
Yeah.
it could really just suck the energy out of wanting to be a comedian for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the
$250. 250
yep,
bucks.
yep. Not even a great amount of money. $50 for every
Yeah.
100 miles you drove.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
Or every hour you spent in the car, rather.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? It's like you kind of doing it for the love of the game.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Now, I mean, those are some great stories, and it was a pretty big variety from bar shows to colleges to comedy
Hmm.
clubs. What are some of the things like when you have experiences like that? What do you like? Do you kind of like think about the show and things that you could have done differently, or how you could have improved to like, to prevent something like that from happening down the road?
Um,
Because some of
I
them are
think
situational and they're out of our control for sure. But
some of them are situational. I think, I thought about, you always got to ponder that kind of thing, especially like for a club week. You got to kind of go like, well, I've got more shows coming up. So I
hmm
gotta like think about what it is they didn't like on that show and like come up with a way to attack it differently on this next one because I've got two more and I don't want to just have this be my weekends. At that one, I really think it was the club. Well, it wasn't the club, it was the show. Like
yeah, that
that
particular show.
particular
Yeah,
late show Friday, because
yeah,
the Saturday shows were both great. So it was just like Thursday was good, early show Friday was good, both Saturdays were good. Late show Friday, sometimes it's just going to happen. And
yeah,
everybody knows that
absolutely.
late show Friday is going to be the one that it happens on.
Any
90% of the
insight
time.
on shaking that off? Because that you're right. A lot of times the late show Friday at a comedy club can be the one that's the bad one, but it's easy to get. We all get in our heads, and then you got to try to shake that off when you still have two more shows. Because otherwise, if you
Yeah.
don't, you could let it could get in your head, and then you end up having, like I said, you end up having a bad
Yeah.
weekend.
You can get the yips for sure. I think like really one of the things about stand up that is kind of for all of the like soul crushing that bombing can be, what's good about it is there's always that next show. So
Hmm.
like really it's like it's just getting back on the horse, like because I think it's like you have that night where you're like oh God, I'm just not even good. I've never been good. They're gonna find out I'm not good. And this is gonna be, a mess, and maybe I should get my real estate license or whatever. But then the next show is the next day, and you go up on that show, and you know, if you're getting laughs in that first 5 minutes, it's kind of gone. It starts to go away.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I just think it's like I think it's just that kind of thing. Like you just have to get back up and keep getting back up because that's the thing that will convince. That's kind of the only way those like voices in your head get silenced.
yeah, kind
Otherwise
of
they'll sort
essentially
of
proving I'm wrong in a
yeah,
way.
you pretty
Yeah,
much have to shut them up. So it kind of is I feel like clubs are the easier one to do that with because it's sort of basically the same situation with a slightly different crowd, and
hmm,
now this crowd likes you. That one maybe didn't, or maybe they did. It wasn't even you. It was just like it's late, they're tired. The
yeah,
thing about late show Fridays are they generally have worked all day, and
yep,
then they went to happy hour and they drank at happy hour, and then they went to dinner and they drank at dinner. And so by the time you get them, they've already had a few drinks, and
yep,
then they have the 2 item minimum. So they're drunk and they're tired because they got up and they went to work and then they were drinking. So you just are, it's kind of when it's going to be bad.
yeah, oh yeah, yep,
So you just got to see that next one and just keep going.
yeah,
That's it. And I feel like for colleges, they're a very specific thing. It's kind of like cruises, I think, where it's it's not just that like your material needs to be better or different necessarily. There's like they're young. You forget. It's when even when you're 25, you go do a college and you're like, these are like children. Like, they're like 19 and you're like, man, like at 25, like 19 feels young.
yep,
And like, forget like 28, 29, like 19 feels so young. And so you're kind of like performing for like kids,
yep,
and your references, they maybe won't track the same way. You might not. And it's a lot of really keeping them engaged. One of the like guys that I met along the way who was like one of the best at colleges, you meet these guys who do like 60, 70, 80 of them a year or whatever. He was just constantly keeping them like, raise your hand if this, raise your hand and if that, who hear this, because it's just like they need that kind of stimulation. I assume it's probably even more so now with
oh
with
yeah, with short attention
TikTok and all
spans,
that
yeah,
kind of stuff. It's like, but also it depends on the school and like what kids are like. I did schools where I was like, man, that was like the best comedy club there is. That was like the Comedy Works downtown. That was so easy. They went with everything. It was a great time. And then you do other ones where you're like, that felt like they didn't understand a word I was saying, or sometimes they're awkward about laughing because it's still
Yeah.
kind of like that. It just depends, and it helps, I think. So I would learn to like, okay, I got to talk a little more about like what they're specifically into because I can't expect that they'll know like sort of a vast array of sort of references or whatever.
Hmm.
Like it helps to be a little more on to try to mentally very much get on their level. It also helps to talk to them. Crowd work really works with them, and you don't have to be particularly great at it. It's just like they just like being engaged, making fun of like, a lot of times it'll be like teachers or whatever that are like sort of part of the whole like booking thing that they're aware of, their coaches, whatever, their school, the town that the school is in, like that stuff, if you can make it kind of local to their experience, then it's much, much easier to deal with them, to like have them come along with you. Um, so I would try to start incorporating stuff like that
Hmm.
and, get out of my act a little more, like with comedy club adults, it's, you know, easier to be like, okay, I'm like in my act and I'm going through the bits. With them, it's a little more, like, man, this town, like you write a bunch of jokes about the town, write a bunch of jokes about what you learned about the school, right? Stuff
Yeah.
about how hard it is to
Which
get up there.
which is also good. It's a good challenge as a performer and a creative because then you have
Yeah.
you're pushing yourself outside of your normal act and pushing yourself to actually,
Yeah.
because it's easy to get caught up as you got a really good
Hmm.
solid set, and that's what you do for a while, until you film
Right.
it or do whatever, and it's easy to get like, oh, I'm just gonna go into autopilot and do what
Right.
works, but
Right. Or even if you just sell it, but like the way the dynamics are different, where like, sometimes in a club, if the act isn't playing, it's because you need to sell it a little harder.
mm-hmm.
You can get, if it's kind of rowdy, you can get kind of bigger than the bear and like overpower it and bring them to you. With that, they pull back, they sort of shut down because it's kind of like, why is this guy yelling at us? Like, so you need to
We get
like,
yelled at by our teachers all the time. We
right,
don't need this.
right. So the thing is, the flip side is once you get that, it's like it actually is kind of easier because you can kind of make up stuff about where you are, the town, the school, stuff you saw during the day. You go hang around the town during the day and come up with stuff. One time I did a college like up on like the like Washington. I don't know if they call it like the Panhandle of Washington. What the like it has like a term for it, but that little part of Washington state that's like over here,
Hmm.
there's like the water is like it's kind of like a panhandle, but I don't
Okay,
think they call it that.
call it
But
something
I
else,
did,
but
yeah, I did a school up there, and and I had the student affairs guy, like the adult guy, like send me a list of facts about the town and the school. And then I just wrote a bunch of jokes about all that stuff and spent 20 minutes talking about the school and the town and him. And that was the best part of the show because they liked like being engaged like that. It
yeah.
helps to be
Well, and you made
like,
it was relatable to them,
yeah,
which
that I feel like that's the thing about college is you got to figure out how to make it very relatable to them. So, that's and keep them engaged and like, that kind of thing. But that's like that's the only things, those are things you learn by not
uh,
doing that and eating it real
oh yeah,
hard.
practice. Yep.
Yeah.
You got to have those bad shows. That's exactly it. Well, this has been
Yeah.
fantastic, but we are going to start wrapping up. Before we get out of here, where can people find you, or what do you want? What do you want to plug them or push people to?
Well, I'm releasing my first album, my debut album. I haven't done an album before. I've been doing stand up like 20 years almost, but I never did one. So this is kind of a big deal for me.
Oh, very
It's called
nice.
Esquire. Pre-orders are now, and it will be available everywhere comedy albums are available on the 20th.
20th of February or 20th of
Yeah,
March? 20th of February.
20th of
Awesome.
February. Yeah.
Awesome.
Um, Other than that, I'm a writer for Jimmy Kimmel Live, so watch the show.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks so much for having me.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.